All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started on week 4. This week is the quality or QMS measurements and SWOT analysis. So let's go ahead and get rocking. So every week I like to do a safety moment. So somebody text in a safety moment, go off mute, give me a safety moment, whatever you have for this week. What do we got for safety this week?
I have one. Late last week, we had an employee reach underneath a guard without shutting her machine and locking it out, or shutting off her machine and locking it out. She thought she was going to be able to get her hand in there and remove the extra product out before the clamp came down, and she was not right, and it clamped her finger, and that's where we stand.
Yeah, that's not good. Did you guys do like a investigation? Was it lack of training, or was it just trying to get out of there at the end of the day, not thinking?
I think they've been really busy and she was rushing. The girl that was training her had just told her not to stick her hand underneath the guard, that if once they do the cycle that they'll shut the machine down and reach through and clean everything up. And she said she heard her say that, and apparently things weren't connecting for her, and she just said she just did it and without thinking, and it got her. So
yeah, no, I appreciate the safety moment, but yeah, I think in construction I see it, but pretty much everyday life, we can't take risks because we're late, right? I mean, regardless of the outcome of trying to go quicker, having every single finger still okay at the end of the day is more important than that extra. I mean, even 30 minutes if she saved that. Driving, same with that, right? Getting there even a half hour early, not worth your life. So great. I appreciate you sharing that. All right. So some general topics before we get into it. One-on-one. If anybody's having troubles, I haven't had anybody take me up on it. But one-on-ones, hit me up. Hey, Susanna. Hey, Cassandra. Reminder for homeworks. Pretty much you're all doing pretty good, right? But there is one assignment that's just broad, generic, and the other one that's going to be project specific. No AI. Either, I hate to say this, you guys have gotten better at hiding your AI or you're not using it. But either way, I'm appreciating the discussions. Just make sure we're adding to the person when they do the peer review or the peer thing. Reminder that week 6, you have the written exam. You have 2 options. One is in the week 6, you can do an online quiz for 90 minutes. It's 9 questions, 5 define, 4 scenarios, open book. The option 2 is a written home. I sent you in the announcements and an email. You take home, do it as at your leisure. You get to see what it is. Obviously, AI copy paste are going to be restricted on that. So just those are the 2 options. So kind of to that point, you have the week 6. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Sorry, I should have had it ready. But week 6 is a doozy. And I just try to make sure people aren't falling behind, because week 6 will catch you in unaware if you're not preparing for it. So let's see here if I can show you week 6. So week 6 is you're going to have a discussion. Then you're going to have one assignment to talk through quality management tools and techniques. You're going to have a course project number 5. You're going to have your full submission of your course project in a written examination. So week 6 is a lot. And so to avoid and reduce that, what I do is I do week 5 and 6 in the same week. So it probably will only be 80 or 90 minutes, but we're going to do week 5 and 6 next week. And there is no week 6 tech live. So take that week to catch up with everything. Reach out to me for one-on-ones if you want them. But that is the key phrase for our virtual folks. Keep up with your final project. I sent you a template via announcements. And any week 1 homework that anybody doesn't have done is going to get zeroed by Sunday. I've reached out to you. Don't wait until week 6. Get rocking on stuff. Okay, so now we're going to go into week 4. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions on week 1 through 3 or anything in general about the course that doesn't have to do with week 4's content? And I always like a thumbs up or a no questions before I rock on. But if somebody does have a question in weeks 1 through 3 or anything like that, hit me up. Okay, cool. I got a thumbs up and all good here. So if you do have anything for week 1 through 3, always hit me up. I try and respond typically pretty quick, but at least within 24 hours. So what are we looking at this week? We are stopping. We're no longer looking at our process. We're now looking at the organizational level. So what does that mean? That means we're going to try and measure our quality management system, the whole system, effectiveness. We're going to execute a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat assessment on our organizations and connect it to how well or not well our organization does quality. And then we're going to go into 1 and 2. So this is how we fit into the course project. So we've done our process map. We've done our standards, objectives, and QA/QC metrics. And now we're going to go higher level, right? We started the process map. Now we're getting into our QMS and organization. Next week, we're going to do an evaluation of our QMS. And then week 6, we're going to diagnose and do an improvement on our process. So here we are again, right? Week 4, where we are in this process. So week 1, we started out with what is quality. Week 2, we did our process. So we developed our process. Week 3, we're doing our QA/QC, assurance and control, to measure to ensure the effectiveness of our process. So now, week 4, we're going back to this larger QMS, right? So week 2 and 3, we were focusing on the process. Now we're going to focus on the organization and the quality management system. So we have the quality management system. We're going to measure its effectiveness, look at different measures that can do that in assignment 1. In assignment 2, we're going to look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The SWOT analysis isn't like everything else we've talked about. It's more of a business function than it is a quality management function, but it feeds into the whole QMS system. But that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So key phrase number 2, assignment 1. We're going to talk about assignment 1. Make sure to define the 4 measurements. The reason I call that out is because the assignment description says, write a paper on how to analyze the effects and impacts of quality management system programs and practices. And what has happened was, when I have that broad of a description, I got a wild array of answers. And so since the module is talking about different quality management system measurements, that's what we're going to do. So the assignment is going to show that you understand how to quantitatively measure the effectiveness of a QMS system. So it's not anything different from what the assignment asks for. I'm just trying to be more specific. So your paper is going to have an explanation on how the QMS system's effectiveness can be measured by your chosen measurements, right? So you're going to have 4 measurement tools, and you're going to have to define their properties, and you're going to have to talk about how those 4 measurement tools will effectively measure a QMS system's effectiveness, right? As individually and as a whole. So each measurement, you're going to have to define what the measurement or the metric measures, what the calculation is, how is it applied and when is it appropriate, what is it applied to and when is it appropriate, and then how do you use the outputs to understand the QMS effectiveness, right? So here, how do you use the outputs to understand the QMS effectiveness? Asks for a singular measurement. How are you using the outputs of that to measure the QMS effectiveness. And then all 4 of yours, I also need to know together, how do they measure the effectiveness? And then their weaknesses. So one thing a lot of people have done in this assignment is they talk about the strengths and weaknesses of what they're measuring. For example, they say you're talking about, let me think this through, defects. And they say the strengths of defects is that you have lower quality issues. The weaknesses of defects are defects cost money and stuff like that. When I talk about definition, calculation, application, use, and weakness, I mean of the measurement. What is the limitation of the measurement? So we'll kind of go through and define that. So here we go. How am I going to score it? You're going to have measuring the overall QMS effectiveness. How do all 4 measurements work together to successfully measure the effectiveness of the QMS? And then the measurement tools: define, calculate, how do you measure it, application, interpretation, and weaknesses. So here's a very key thing. These are the 9 that are defined in the lesson. I can't promise I won't grade if you go outside of this 9, but the key thing is if you go outside of these 9, you have a risk of doing the process metrics, right? These are QMS metrics, QMS measurements. So to play it safe, I would strongly suggest you use these 9, because if you use one of these 9, I can guarantee you won't get any points off for using an incorrect measurement. If you go outside of this, there might be issues. So make sure you use one of those 9. So why do we care? In the real world, organizations care and need to measure because they need to understand whether or not the QMS is delivering the results. They need to understand weaknesses and strengths of the system. Are we succeeding? Are we failing? And they need to connect the metrics to whether or not they're making strategic decisions. For you in the class, this matters because it's an assignment. It's something that you need to learn, and it will build evidence for the final project. So you can kind of take this on your own, but here's how I'm going to score it. You're going to have 8 points, and hopefully this math adds up. 8 points for definition, calculation, application, interpretation, weakness, and then 14 points for telling me how the overall QMS is measured through them. So assignment 1, I will go into detail on these 9 measurements, and we'll talk about why they're important. But high level, does anybody have any questions on my expectations of this week for assignment 1? And I saw Monique join. Hey, Monique, and Anthony joined as well. Okay, cool. No questions. If you do have questions, you can always ask.
Sorry, I have a question, Professor.
Yeah,
I
please.
probably didn't hear it in the very beginning. Was this considered a paper or similar to our project 2 with bullet
Gotcha.
points?
Yes, this assignment 1 is always a paper. Always a paper. Well, maybe that's not true. But yes, this is a paper, Susanna. The assignment 1 is a paper. And assignment 2, it can be a little less formal. You can kind of do it again. But yes, assignment 1 needs to be a paper. So it's write a short 1 to 2 page paper. I'm not going to grade. As you can see, this one doesn't have a grading on length or anything to do with your word count or anything like that. I'm really going to grade based off of content. But thank you for that question. I'm sure if you had that question, other people did too. Any other questions on assignment 1? Okay, sweet. So let's get into assignment 2. So assignment 2 is going to be your SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. I think we picked organizations that you could literally Google SWOT analysis of Amazon, and you'll get a lot of results. So hopefully this assignment is relatively easy. Be careful about copying and pasting, but that can be it. So we need 5 strengths, 5 weaknesses, 5 opportunities, 5 threats. These are 6 point each. And then the other half is going to be, I need you to give me, I would say at least a paragraph of understanding the SWOT analysis what does this mean for your organization's quality program, right? You've done their SWOT analysis. You've done a little research. How do you think your organization's quality program, quality management system, what is it looking like? And this is going to help you build towards the final project. But this is going to be an expectations of the assignment. So Susanna, you asked if this one needs to be a paragraph format. Last week, a lot of people chose to do paragraph. That's absolutely fine. This one can be bullet points if you want. You can make a nice graph if you want. It's however you want to do it. And when you write out your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, here's something. You have to be specific to your organization, right? Maybe not all of them, but they can't all be generic. So they got to show that you understand your organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Another thing too is, they can be as short as long as you want. Give me enough information that I understand the SWOT analysis of your project. So strengths of Amazon, they make money, right? That's not a good strength, right? Let's really get into the business strengths of that. Yeah, Susanna, you got a question?
I was just going to say, when you're referring to organizations, you're referring to our Amazon, not like our actual company organization.
Your actual company, whatever process you have. So every course project is specific to you. So when I say Amazon, that's only a few of them. What do you have, Susanna?
I do have Amazon. Sorry. I thought you could mean our own company, the company we work for.
Yes, your own company.
Not our employer.
Oh, I got you. The organization.
I do provide some personal experience in some of my work. That's why I just wanted some clarification. But this makes sense. This is all related to our project.
Yes,
thank you.
The project that you chose in the beginning. Thank you for asking. All right. Let's see here. So you can kind of look at this. I sent this to you as far as what's expected. Okay, so we're going to get into the content for this week. Does anybody have any, and Susanna, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions on 1 or 2? Again, no questions. Please let me know. Give me a thumbs up. I think Monique and Anthony, I haven't seen you type anything. Just make sure you do by the end of it to get us points. The thumbs up might count. So cool. All right. So measuring QMS effectiveness. That is what we're talking about this week. So you have a QMS system, right? But how do you know if it is effective? So before you can measure effectiveness, hopefully when you developed your quality management system, you had clear objectives, defined processes, defined standards, things we learned about last week, right? Measurement methods. How are you going to measure things? How are you going to collect data? Who is the roles and responsibilities? What's the feedback loop? Culture, right? You've created that culture. A lot of concepts here are things we've learned about week 1, 2, and 3, right? So in order to successfully measure the effectiveness of a QMS, you have to create a QMS that can be measured, right? So it needs to be structured such that it can be measured. But how can it be measured? You can use qualitative and quantitative evidence. So qualitative, right, not numbers, you can measure, and these are great things to measure, and you can put this in your paper, but this isn't going to be graded as strongly. Most of the paper is going to be quantitative, numbers. So qualitative, right, you can do employee engagement, ownership of quality, leadership commitments, process discipline consistency, right? You can actually make these quantitative, but these are kind of almost a little bit quality assurance, like what's happening out there. How effective is your quality, your QMS system, and why is it effective, right? And these are kind of the backdoor things, the back end things. These reveal culture, maturity, and systemic strengths and weaknesses, right? If you have issues in your qualitative investigation of effectiveness, it's deep-rooted, right? And it might not be easy to fix. If your leadership isn't committing, that's going to be a huge thing, right? And so then now we're getting into what we're going to talk about with our assignment, which is quantitative measurements, right? So this is kind of the outcome. And these are the different ones that we'll go into this week. But they show performance, stability, efficiency, and reliability. So let's get into our measurements that you can kind of use. So why do they matter, right? Effects and impacts. They measure the effects and impacts of the quality management system per the assignment and per the class. It understands, is the system working, struggling, improving? How is the system doing? And every metric that we show, every measurement that we show is going to reveal something different. And one of these metrics, one of these measurements is important, but you want to have possibly several different measurements to understand the holistic efficacy, effectiveness of your QMS system, right? Which is what I have here. Sorry. When analyzed together, they provide a really good picture of the QMS effectiveness. So the first one we're going to talk about is cost of quality. So cost of quality takes the entirety of the measures and the cost you're spending for good quality. Now, what do you guys think is good quality? What is the cost of good quality? Somebody give me an example. What might be a cost of good quality? Somebody give me something. What might be a cost of good quality? What might be the cost of making sure you have a good quality management program? What might be the cost? Somebody text or go off mute. What do we got? What do you think?
Maybe time. It'll take more time to produce a quality product.
Okay, so what is that time doing? You're spending money on labor, right? So what
Right.
is that labor doing? Yes, that's right. It's a little too high level, but that is right, Cassandra. I think the next point is, what is that time being spent on? But no, that's right. So labor, yeah. Training for employees, that's a perfect one, right? Monique, did you have one?
Yes. The cost of quality, you might lose business because, like she
Okay, so
said,
that's the cost of poor quality, and that's an
no,
excellent
no,
segue.
no. Right now, what I mean by that is like because what she said, you put quality and time into your people and blah, blah, and somebody might need you right away. They might cost you certain business because you might be taking too long for certain people, but you have to take that amount of time because you putting quality into every move you make.
Yeah. So you're talking about like the downstream impacts of taking the
Oh,
time to have quality. So that is a great point, Monique. That's not going to be incorporated into this as much. It's going to be a little bit more like Cassandra said, like our labor hours, but that's an excellent point
mhm.
that if you're seeking out quality, right, you're focusing on your product now, there might be business opportunities that you can't meet. Awesome. Thank you guys. So prevention, appraisal costs, right? It's just anything that is preventing, right? So training is a big one, auditing, any analysis, right? So what is the money you're putting in to have a good quality program? And then what is the cost of failure? And so this is the cost of quality, right? And one of the pros is this gives you a really good dollars and cents understanding of the cost of your quality. And obviously you can have costs by item. I would say, and I want you to do research on this, so don't just go with what I say. But a con of this is that I don't really think it is identifying what is the biggest issue, right? Because what if we have a cost of quality being a lot of rework, right? We might focus on the rework. Well, what if the actual cause of that rework comes all the way up to management, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but this does give you a nice dollars and cents. How much are we spending on quality? Cassandra, Monique, Pasita, thank you so much for giving me those accurate responses. I appreciate it. Next thing is really easy, right? This one's defects. So defective parts over total parts times a million. Now, that being said, defects works really well for our folks that have, the project of the Toyota. This doesn't work well for our Mayo, our clinic and triage, right? So just saying like defects is great, but it's isolated to probably manufacturing and when you're doing a lot of different parts. So this is defects per million, really, really simple. So what's the pros? It's a really, really simple and easy to understand and not a lot of data points. The cons is it's only doing the output. It's only doing the defects and it's only going to work for, you know, certain industries. For, again, research that yourself, build upon it. So here we go. This kind of says what I had said before. You can read through it. It is in the PowerPoint. It gives you a little bit more depth in that. Next, we have customer complaints and returns. So this would be kind of a count data. So you would assess how many complaints do we have, how many rejections, or how many returns do we have, right? Or it could be number of resolved complaints or issues during a certain period. And then, you know, that's going to lead to the warranty costs. Overall equipment effectiveness combines, you know, availability, performance, and quality. As you're going to see, especially for some of my folks that have, you know, more of the HR or the processes that aren't producing things, a lot of these measurements are really geared towards processes that produce things or use equipment, right? Here we're talking about how much is the equipment available, how much is it broken down, how much did it have to be shut down to change over, right? You're not going to see that in delivering. Well, you might see that in preparing for a delivery with Amazon, but you're not going to see that with the new hire, right? Or the onboarding rather. Same with performance and quality. But anyway, why is this good? It goes, you know, availability, performance, quality. It might be bad. This is a lot of different data that you have to get. So it looks at the equipment that you have, how much is it available, how much is it producing, and how much is it in spec, right? So kind of went through that. We can kind of look through that on your own in the PowerPoint if you want. Throughput is similar. So it's looking at how much are you making per machine, per product line, or for the entire plant. And it has your total units, how much time is it taking per unit, and at times how many good units you have versus total units, right? On-time delivery, that's another metric here. And here down here we have the calculation, percent complete, percent on time, percent damage-free, percent correctly invoiced, right? Perfect order metric is that calculation down there. So throughput measures how much product or service output is produced over time, process speed, flow, capacity, right? Stronger performance. All right. Then we have our supplier quality metrics. You have your supplier defect rate, supplier chargeback, incoming supplier's quality, right? What's getting delivered in. We have our capacity utilization rate. What is the actual capacity of whatever process we have? What is our schedule realization? How many orders are completed by on time per how many orders are actually ordered? So those are our 9 metrics that I'm going to have you deep dive into. Do you have any questions on these different metrics? Does it make sense how they're measuring the quality management system? If you find something that you think is interesting outside of these 9, you can do it. The only thing is there's a potential you're going to have to maybe explain why it's measuring the quality management system. But before I kind of go into the deep dive on the metrics, does anybody have any question on these measurements? My request is, or my assignment is going to be you looking into 4 of them and give me feedback. But thumbs up, no questions, and then I'll keep rocking. Or ask a question if you have one.
I do have a question. In the assignment, do you want us to go into the formulas at all and explain that, or steer clear of that?
Yeah, so you're going to want to say what the formula is and understand the data that you need to collect to get the formula, because that's going to give a pro or con. So yes, I am expecting the formula to be explained. Let me see if I show that in my screen here, right? So calculation, how is each metric measured? So I will want to know the formula or method of you know, arriving to a value for that metric. Thank you for that question.
Gotcha.
All right, let's see here. So that's the one, is understanding how to measure the quality management system effectiveness. So what makes a metric a QMS measurement? So one thing is going to be kind of interesting is a lot of these probably could either be used as the process or look a lot like your process metrics. So what makes a, versus a QA QC metric to a quality management system metric is that it has to reflect the system level performance, impact multiple processes right? It ties directly to QMS objectives. It influences customer cost delivery or reliability. It drives leadership decisions. So it needs to be one of the critical things that your organization does, right? So here we kind of have the micro to macro. Last week we did micro measurements that are measuring the process, right? Inspection results, training completion, defective rates. Now, you see this defect rates, right? This is where it gets kind of weird. A defect rate can be a process metric, operational metric, or system level metric, right? And so how can a defect rate be that? Well, if your process is like the critical thing that you do. So if all you really do is make, let's say, I don't know, you make computer chips. That's all you do is make computer chips. A defect rate for the computer chip development process or the manufacturing of computer chips, the defect rate is going to be your process. But if that's all you do, that's also going to be the system level because it is the system level performance, right? You're making those computer chips, right? The computer chips is your business, your QMS objectives. But typically a defect rate is going to be your process metrics, right? So they measure performance of a discipline or a single step. Then you have your mid-level that are going to have multiple processes within a department, function, or production line. So overall equipment effectiveness, delivery performance, cycle time. And then you have macro level, and that's what we're trying to get here, right? So all those 9 are going to be macro level or combined to be macro level. And they're measurements that measure the entirety quality management system. Cost of quality is an excellent version of this because you saw it was everything. All of the other ones kind of need to combine to get the system level, right? So week 3, we did a QA/QC metrics, measuring one process, one discipline, right, with one quality, right? Are we doing the process right? Are we producing something within the process? The quality QMS measurements measures the entire QMS, system-wide performance indicators, macro level. Is the QMS effective? Now, I want to repeat, if some of you have a process that is integral into the QMS system, and if it's like the heart of everything you do, then your QA/QC metrics may be QMS indicators, if that makes sense. So they aren't just process measurements, right? I think I'm hitting this on the head a little too much, but they reflect the critical processes that do the overall performance of the QMS. Let me see here. So how does a company choose what measurements they should do for their company? Well, it's going to start with their quality objectives. What are the quality objectives, right? And we talked about that last week. Is your QA/QC very similar? How do your QA/QC metrics identify to your process objectives? How does your QMS quality objectives, what are they? What should we be measuring? Identify the critical processes and make sure we're measuring those, right? Look for metrics that provide system level impacts. Again, we want to do the whole QMS. One thing that might be a restriction, what data can we actually collect? Can we actually collect all the data that's required for this measurement? And a way to make sure that you're doing your QMS is do multiple, right? So a strong QMS system could have customer metrics, operational metrics, supplier metrics, capacity metrics, all in one. And that's one thing I want you to answer in your assignment, right? When you're looking at your metrics, choose 4 metrics and talk about how do the metrics as a whole, how do all of those metrics give you all together a really good understanding of the QMS effectiveness, right? So I think I hit on this, right? More than one measurement. You don't just want one measurement, I think I've done really good on that. And the reason, right, I highlighted this in red, but we kind of talked through that. So before I go into SWOT analysis, QMS effectiveness, there's a lot of, qualitative ways that we can measure it, and you can put that in your paper. But what we're really focusing on this week is the quantitative measurements. And so what I did is I kind of introduced the different measurements, and I'm having you going to learn that kind of on your own with your own research to do the assignment. But then I kind of, went in and understood what is the difference between this QMS metrics and a QA/QC process metric and all that. So what questions do we have for assignment 1 for the, the different measurements to do overall QMS effectiveness? Do we have any questions before we get into SWOT analysis? Sweet. If you do, I can definitely go backwards. Thank you, Cassandra. Thank you, Masita. All right. So from measurements to SWOT. So SWOT is going to be a little weird because it's not only a quality management tool. It's more of a business tool, but it's very helpful for your QMS. So, executing your measurements is going to help you catalyze on strengths. Not having measurements is going to make you blind to weaknesses. They're also going to help you with the external opportunities and threats. So let's get into our SWOT analysis. And this is going to be assignment 2. And per Susanna's question, this is going to be based on the project that you chose for this course. So you're now going to not look at the process. You're looking at the organization of the process that you chose. So what is a SWOT analysis? SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a structured way to evaluate an organization's SWOT at a very high level. So what is it in quality management? Well, ISO 9001:2015 requires that an organization identifies internal and external issues. Boom, right? That's SWOT. It requires organizations to identify risks and opportunities. And ISO also requires that the QMS connects to your strategic business decisions, right? Your quality should be connected to your business decisions, and your business decisions is going to help you with your SWOT is going to help you identify any, benefits or negative impacts to your business strategy, customer needs, market conditions, right? So SWOT is not a quality management tool. It is a business tool that has a lot of impacts on your quality management system. So now we're going to go into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. One thing that's a little tough to think about, strengths and weaknesses are internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So a strength and an opportunity are pretty much the same thing, except a strength is something that you're doing yourself as a company. An opportunity is something that's out there for you to take advantage of. A weakness is something that you're failing at as a company or not doing great at. A threat is something out there that could threaten your business objectives. So strengths are positive attributes or resources that a business or project has at its disposal. It's positive things that you're doing, right? And weaknesses is going to be the opposite. They're negative, right? Or areas of improvement of what the business is doing. And then, like I said, opportunities are external factors that could benefit a business or product. Threat are external factors that can harm a business or product, right? So let's think about, Blockbuster, right? So Blockbuster opportunities, they had the ability to go at a certain period of time. They chose not to do it, but they had the opportunity to go online like Netflix, do that whole mail delivery, right? And threats was Netflix, right? These are the opportunities and threats. So strengths, things that your organization do well, qualifications that separate you from others, right? So like highly skilled staff, values that grow your business, right? Weaknesses, things that your competitors do better than you, but your weakness is not going to be a competitor because that's going to be a threat. But things that you don't do quite as well, that's an internal thing as your competitor is going to be a weakness. Things that hold your company back, like a lack of resources, unskilled labor. Opportunities are developing an innovative new idea, potential positive changes in market demand, emerging need for your product or services, right? Trends. These are external things that will help you. Threats are changing regulations, changing trends and customer attitudes, financial risks, emerging competitors, right? So there's a video if you want to watch it that kind of goes through, and how they develop it is a little bit this 4 boxes within the graph: strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats, right? So you build your strengths, you leverage your strengths, you invest in your opportunities, you shore up, like shoring up, preparing for a flood, right? You're making, and also try and get rid of your weaknesses, and you monitor your threats. And strengths and weaknesses are internal, right? So examples could be your leadership, your employees, your customers, failures or successes in your KPIs. Opportunities and threats are external, really big trends out there. What's the industry doing? What's the market doing? What are your competitors doing, right? So any questions on SWOT analysis before we get into examples? Any questions on what I'm expecting you to do for the assignment? I'm wanting you to do a SWOT analysis. That's 50% of the assignment. The other 50% is going to be critical thinking. Look at that SWOT analysis and give me enough information that I know that you've looked at and thought about it. What does that SWOT analysis tell you about that company's quality management system, quality culture, quality program? So I keep talking, but I'm going to pause here a bit. What questions do we have about SWOT analysis? Thumbs up or no issues? All right, sweet. We'll keep rocking then. You can always ask me questions. So, excuse me. Let's look at Chick-fil-A and look at their SWOT analysis. So SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool. Obviously, the core of it is SWOT, and they're identifying these different factors, right? So you're creating a roadmap for achieving goals and objectives. You're reducing the likelihood of negative outcomes. You're taking advantage of by allocating resources to things that will help you, or taking resources away from things that will hurt you, or putting resources towards things to prevent threats. It helps you gain a competitive advantage because you understand your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so it's really resource, right? What am I good at? What am I bad at? What is coming out there that scares me? What's coming out there that I need to take advantage of? And continuously improving. So let's do the SWOT analysis of Chick-fil-A. So the strength is brand reputation. You think Chick-fil-A, everybody knows Chick-fil-A. They have a unique menu. They have great customer service. Or, you can agree or disagree with that, but that's what I found online. I highlighted it's closed on Sundays because that's a very interesting thing. That is a strength for customers who value that kind of culture. Now, that's also a weakness. If people don't value that culture, they can't eat on Sunday, right? Other organizations are open on Sunday, so they lose revenue. They don't have a lot of international presence. We don't need to get into it too much, but there have been in the past some public relation issues, and they have a narrow product focus, right? Chicken. So if people stop liking chicken, or if there's a major issue with chicken, that's a weakness, right? Opportunities. So their weaknesses is limited international presence. They have the opportunity to expand internationally, diversify their menu, partner strategically. But they have a lot of competition, right? What is it? Cane's Chicken, right? A lot of different things. The consumers are they going vegetarian? Are they going red meat? Supply chain disruptions, public relation, labor issues, right? So I have a whole bunch more here. Business startup, right? So we have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You kind of look through these. Established business, right? Same thing. Nonprofit organization, SWOT analysis. So one thing I do want to say here, that this should be pretty simple. So Amazon SWOT analysis 2025. I mean, you got to make sure that what you look up is legitimate, but it picked companies that really the SWOT analysis shouldn't be that hard. Right? It's right here for my Amazon folks. This is pretty much the answer. Now, be careful. You can't copy and paste because it will trigger plagiarism. But Mayo Clinic SWOT analysis 2025, right? We have pretty much all of these are going to have, I mean, this one isn't as pretty, but it has, let's see here. Oh, this one's going to be a lot longer. Here we go. Maybe this one's going to be good. Strengths. There we go. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, right? So that's why I had you guys not pick your own process and organization, because hopefully the ones we picked are going to be readily available for you. So this one's Ford, right? I have a whole bunch of examples, but I don't know that it's beneficial for me to go through all of these. There's Target. I know some of you have Target, right? Dollar General. So yeah, I mean, that's we're ending a little earlier today. I hope nobody minds. But the SWOT analysis, go online, find it. Don't copy and paste because that'll be plagiarism. But I mean, you can go find that answer and then put it in there. And then based on the SWOT analysis, give me a paragraph. What is that impacting your quality program? So yeah, for my online folks, key phrase number 3, we're getting to the end. We got halfway done. Now we're towards the last half. If my people are behind, just try and catch up. If my people are caught up, try not to fall behind. I really try and push you in this class because week 6 is a pain. It's a lot. So common mistakes. Okay, so common mistakes for assignment 1. Talking vaguely about how to ensure QMS effectiveness. So the assignment says, how do you measure QMS effectiveness and impacts? And that's fine, and that could be a paragraph or 2. But I need you to do the measurement discussions, right? I'm not going to be too harsh on this. If you like a measurement out there that you want to use it. You just have a risk of picking one that isn't a correct measurement. It's not QMS level. If you go outside of the 9 that I've shown, you have to explain to me why it is a QMS, why it can measure it effectively. Not describing each metric. So assignment 2, confusing internal and external. That's kind of a big one. Not summarizing the assessment and its impact on QMS. So this is a typo and this kind of sucks. Don't do this. Week 5, if you go into the assignment, you're going to see that it's telling you to do something that I haven't talked about. That was an error that I didn't catch before. So it's not the end of the world if you do this, but it's going to be a lot of extra work for you. So do not do quality standards that they need to apply with. I'm not grading that. Do not document where they comply or don't comply with requirements. I'm not doing that. That's going to be next week. That's going to be week 5. Okay. So what questions do we have? I got a summary of the learnings that are provided, and then we can end the class. But Anthony, Tony, Cassandra, Chelsea, Janae, Sita, Rolanda, Susanna, any questions about this course or about this week? Anything that we need to go through?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm always available one-on-one. We can set up a one-on-one if you want it. I hope you're getting a lot out of this class. I hope you're learning a lot. That is the goal. And I hope it's not been too stressful. Always resubmit if you don't get a grade you like and reach out to me. So let's finish with learning summaries. Methods for monitoring and evaluating. It's not good. Don't use it. There are 2 papers, SWOT analysis, identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and the complete manual for SWOT analysis. Both of those are obviously very helpful if you want to know SWOT better. And that's it. So we're ending 10 minutes early today. I hope nobody feels cheated. But I will stay on if anybody has questions. Otherwise, enjoy your week. Thanks, Susanna. Appreciate the thumbs up. Have a safe week. Thank you, Cassandra. Good to see you. Yeah, Janae, what's
Sorry,
up?
that was on accident.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. Take care. Oh, we lost Monique. Did we lose her? All right. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. So everybody take care. and we will